Deemed one of the top 10 indie fantasy releases of 2010 by Fantasy Book Critic and featured in the first ever Publishers Weekly Indie Select issue, the epic Wardstone fantasy trilogy was written in longhand in a Texas prison cell by award-winning author M.R. Mathias. Newly reformatted to meet modern ebook standards, this is one set of novels you don't want to miss. The Sword and the Dragon, Book 1 of the Wardstone trilogy. When the royal wizard of Westland poisons the king so that his puppet prince can take the throne and start a continental war, a young squire is forced to run for his life, carrying the powerful sword that his dying monarch burdened him with from the deathbed. Two brothers find a magic ring and start on paths to become the most powerful sort of enemies, while an evil young sorceress unwillingly falls in love with one of them when he agrees to help her steal a dragon's egg for her father. Her father just happens to be the royal wizard, and despite his daughter's feelings, he would love nothing more than to sacrifice the boy. All of these characters, along with the Wolf King of Wildermont, the Lion King of Westland, and a magical hawk named Talon, are on a collision course towards Willa the Witch Queen's palace in the distant kingdom of Highwander. There, the very bedrock is formed of the powerful magical substance called Wardstone. Who are the heroes? And will they get there before the royal wizard and his evil hordes do? Whatever happens, the journey will be spectacular, and the confrontation will be cataclysmic. The Wardstone Fantasy Trilogy by M.R. Mathias. For bonus interviews and exclusive audio and visual material, you can support Apex Magazine on Patreon at patreon.com/apexmagazine. That's patreon.com/apexmagazine. Welcome to Astuna by Pip Coen. A millipede wends its way across the grimy ceiling. I stretch out in the bed, let loose a satisfied yawn, and freeze. Where the fuck am I? Off-white walls peek through peeling wallpaper, a cracked mirror rests on a dresser, and the sagging bed has more stains than I care to think about. Light sputters from a neon sign outside the window, and a half-open door leads to a dingy bathroom. The air is damp enough to drink. The millipede appears to be the room's only other occupant, and I'm fairly certain we aren't acquainted. I take a breath and try to slow my heart. Whichever river of shit I'd fallen into, I wasn't drowning at the moment. Last I can remember, I was headed into my freshman evaluation with Professor Schenk and nothing. A shudder runs through me. The older girls had warned me that Schenk was a fucking weirdo. Professor of Generalizable Studies, some joke course that didn't even exist anymore, who sporadically flew into town and met with the few students unlucky enough to be in his tutor group. But no one mentioned a habit of drugging female freshmen and leaving them in squalid motels. My head's clear, but they say good shit doesn't leave after effects. I close my eyes and press a thumb against the sliver of exposed metal beneath my ear. If my implants have gone screwy, memory recall might not be working. I manually replay the last minutes directly onto my optic nerve, but it doesn't reveal any extra information, nothing beyond the staircase leading into Schenk's office. A cursory check confirms that all toes and fingers are accounted for. Nothing in the pockets of my jeans or jacket, which I apparently slept in. I scramble out of bed and flap the sheets, sending an ugly-as-fuck purse flying into the far wall. A spark of hope ignites, but burns out just as quickly. It contains nothing but a wad of purple notes in a currency I don't even recognize. I turn to the dresser, catch my reflection, and stop dead. Who the fuck? The face peering back at me isn't mine. Is mine? Crow's feet fan from heavy eyes, a puckered scar runs along my jawline, and my cheekbones are sharp as knives. My hair stops at my shoulders and streaks of grey mingle with the usual black. I've gained 15 years and lost 20 pounds. Bile rises in my throat and I dash into the bathroom to deposit the remnants of my last meal, whatever that was, into the toilet. When the convulsions finish, I twist around and sink to the cracked tiles, back resting against the toilet bowl. A faded poster glares at me from the bathroom wall. A man standing in front of a vast city as the sun sets over an endless ocean. Astuna, a place to remember or forget. I slam my hand on the bell at the reception desk. A freaking bell! Either they, whoever they are, dumped me in a themed motel or it was actually built 100 years ago. It doesn't even have elevation tubes, for fuck's sake. The reception area is straight out of an old hollow flick. A glass window set in the wall, facing a collection of tired couches. A coffee table in the center is piled with magazines. That settled it. Physical magazines haven't been around for decades. Shitty hotel with an even shittier theme. "Hello?" I shout, hitting the bell again. I'm coming. An old woman bustles into view from somewhere behind the window, wiping sleep from her eyes. She slides the window open. "Reception hours." "Please, you have to help me." I grip the counter to stop myself shaking. "I just woke up and—" "Oh, honey," the woman says. She cups my cheeks and wrinkled hands and gives me a pitying look. "How long did you lose?" I can't extract any sense from her question, so I ignore it. "Can you tell me how I wound up in this dump and why I'm a whole fuck ton older than I should be?" She frowns and releases my face. "Dump? We create an authentic 20th century atmosphere with who cares?" "Don't get terse with me, honey. I've got no patience for it." She pauses, eyeing me expectantly. I swallow a lump of frustration. "Sorry." "Consider yourself lucky. 3 years ago, before the policy changed, they might even have taken more. Can't go below 16 now. I remember one man, swear blind he was pushing 80, stumbling down the stairs with his thumb stuck in his mouth asking for his mother." She shakes her head. "You're lucky, all right. Still have all your faculties." Through monumental effort, I manage not to wrap my lucky hands around her pudgy neck and settle for drumming my fingers against the counter. "Anyway," she continues, "some lads from the casino dropped you off last night and paid for the room. A kindness, really. Not under any obligation to help you out like that, no matter how much you lost at the tables." "I don't gamble." The woman tuts. "Well, there's only 2 types end up with gaping memory holes, gamblers and traders. Guess which one never washes up in my hotel?" She reaches beneath the table and produces a memory slip, which she places on the counter. "Play this and don't ring the bell again outside of official hours. The recall center opens at 7 a.m. They can patch you up if you've got coin. It's the big tower in the middle of town, so you can't miss it." She starts to slide the glass closed. "Wait!" She pauses, but only to snatch the bell before slamming the window and disappearing. I pick up the memory slip. How is this supposed to help? The tiny bundle of nanowires can't hold more than a second, although this seems different from the ones I've used in college. I press it against my implant. The lobby fades to black, and a man winks into existence, wearing a sharply tailored suit and easy smile. "Welcome to Astuna!" At his shout, the backdrop bursts into a panoramic shot of an ocean. I'm Milo Thirsk, here to welcome you to paradise. The camera speeds over the water, and a speck appears on the horizon, then gradually resolves into an island. I've always been a patriot, but when the US legislators closed down the memory markets, I realized the land of the free had abandoned its principles. The camera reaches the island and starts to circle, revealing a city stretched across the entire surface. A huge spire juts from the center, dwarfing every other building. That's why I created Astuna. If you're a buyer or a seller, we have what you're looking for. Want to skip college? Get an engineering degree in the blink of an eye? Want to forget the ex-wife? We can turn any memory into cold, hard cash. Milo holds up his hands. But don't worry, I'm not going for the hard sell. If you aren't here to buy memories, then why not make some? I've transformed this barren island into a world-class resort destination with stunning beaches, designer stores, and the finest virtual golf courses. With each description, the backdrop switches to a matching image. Or why not try your luck at our world-famous casinos? Whether you want to play for Astunian dollars or memories, we can make it happen. The advert ends with a haze of legal rhetoric, reminding me that the island state of Astuna cannot be held responsible for any gambling losses, whether financial or neural. That's followed by the reassurance that all extracted memories remain cryptographically locked to the seller for 1 year, and the forgetful party can reclaim them at face value during that period. And that's it. Fuck. The sun creeps above the city as I run toward the tower. The purple bills stuffed into my purse might be enough for a taxi, but I don't know how long they will need to last. Besides, I've always done my best thinking when on a run. Thought my way out of who the fuck cares Wisconsin and onto a track scholarship. Jane Sr. must have been thinking through some serious shit too, because I'm in great shape. Fantastic actually, considering I'm supposed to be 36. A calendar in the authentic hotel reception area told me that much. That's one entry into the good column for Jane Sr. The only entry so far, and it isn't much compared to the gambling 18 years of her life away. Then there's the scar. I look like an evil sidekick from some shitty straight-to-holovision Bond movie. And let's not forget the ugly-ass purse. I turn onto a wide street lined with hotels. The styles range from tacky to tacky as fuck, but they all reek of money. Probably have rooms bigger than the building I was dumped in. A web of transport tubes fills the sky, ensuring that guests can navigate the city in environmentally controlled comfort. Still, strangers occasionally stagger onto the street around me and hail ground transport. Most are tired, others are drunk. One man stands still, blinking at the morning light. He turns as I approach, confusion painted on his withered face. I avert my eyes and pick up the pace. By the time I reach the recall center, I'm staring at my shoes. The man in front of me, Winston according to his name tag, taps at his screen with a ferocity that belies the rate of progression. He is one of 100 desk jockeys littering the lobby of Astuna's central spire, filling the cavernous space with busy fingers and muted conversation. A pillar of white marble dominates the center, flanked by two stern men wearing sterner suits. The recycled air carries a hint of citrus, which might explain the sour look fixed on Winston's face. Despite the sea of desks, I've waited 2 hours in a line of lost souls to reach Winston. The damage ranged from a missing family vacation to the old crone who just wanted to know whether she had any children. That sends my mind spiraling after my own parents. One mystery I don't have to solve. Losing my memory won't make them any less dead. 20 years an orphan, but it feels like 2 since the accident. Since the move to Wisconsin. My grandparents aren't bad people. Good, even. Their only real crime is not being mom and dad. That and finding a shit stain in the middle of nowhere and confusing it with a habitable town. When they hear about this, the thought turns me cold. Gramps must be 116 now and Gran just 2 years younger. How long has Jane Sr. been alone? Okay. Winston's nasal whine saves me from my thoughts. We have no record of taking memories from a Jane Long in the past year. How is that possible? A forgotten marriage and change of surname is the most common explanation. He twists the screen around. Please place your palm in the white square. If you are in our system, we'll identify you. Well, why the fuck didn't we do that in the first place? Although it seems impossible, Winston's face hardens. I'll forgive one outburst, Miss Long, given your induced youth, but I will not forgive a second. Palm identification is significantly slower and usually proves unnecessary. Few people accrue your level of debt. I doubt anything on this island can be slower than Winston, but I swallow the retort and press my hand against the cool glass screen. There's a beep, and Winston brushes my hand away. He wipes the glass with the cloth, muttering about my grimy fingers in a voice he knows I can hear. I manage to ignore the bait. Mainly because, am I fucking married? If Jane Sr. has a gambling problem, any marriage probably isn't a happy one. I scan the lobby. In every direction, people are fighting for memories they might prefer to forget. Maybe I got rid of mine for a reason. If we did take 18 years from you, the cost of recall will be significant. He pauses as if savoring the word. Have you been in contact with family or friends to assess your finances? How the fuck? Winston's eyes narrow. I mean, no, thank you for asking. I pull the purse from my pocket and take out the cash. I have these. 80 Astunian dollars will buy you... He taps at the screen. 22 hours of recall. It's standard policy to return the oldest memories first. If you want to recall an interstitial segment or segments, you will need to file a special request form with... A chime sounds and Winston blinks. That was quick. He stares at the screen and knits his narrow brow, but says nothing. Well? Jane Waddington Long, 18 years of memory on file, but... Jane Sr. hyphenated my name? Mom's name? She must be trying to piss me off. What's the problem? No problem. Winston hits the screen twice more. But there is no record of the actual extraction. You didn't lose them in one of our official casinos. Who cares where I lost them? You have them now? Yes. They were acquired this morning, and it seems the balance has already been paid in full. It's just, the fee is higher than our usual rate. Much higher. You must have informed a relative of your circumstances before the extraction. So can I get my memories back? Absolutely, but Mr. Thirsk deals with all transactions of this magnitude, and I'm sure he would like to return your memories in person. A smile suddenly spreads across Winston's face. It looks wrong, like one of my shitty drawings that Mom used to stick on the fridge. Ms. Waddington Long, if I'd known... But it doesn't matter. He stands and offers his hand. I ignore it. Winston clears his throat and gestures towards the pillar. If you talk to the gentlemen by the elevation tube, they can help you. And please convey my regards to Mr. Thirsk. I put on my best smile and nod enthusiastically. Go fuck yourself, Winston. A stern suit frisks me at the bottom of the elevation tube and accompanies me inside. Not the biggest elevation tube I've seen, but close. Wide enough to fit a small crowd. A soft light emanates from the ceiling, bouncing off the flecked marble. The suit presses his palm against the security panel and enters a string of digits into a number pad. 2 metal coils drop from the ceiling and bounce in the air. I jump back against the wall. Relax, he says, grabbing one of the coils and sticking it behind his ear. No one gets off the ground floor without a scan. I take the other coil. It's as thick as my thumb and bendy. Just shy of the end, it splits into 1,000 writhing wires. Searching for purchase. Are you fucking kidding me? Memory scans weren't a reality when I started college, but I was familiar with the theory. The pinnacle of personal security. The man's scanner detaches and retreats into the ceiling. Listen, lady, you have 2 choices. Get scanned or get off. No need to give the worm recording access, but you aren't getting within 100 feet of Mr. Thirsk until it checks you for threats. He crosses his arms, each one as thick as my head. Weapons can hide, but intentions can't. I hesitate. Consider rejecting Mr. Thirsk's invitation and waiting in the lobby. But patience isn't one of my many virtues. Besides, what do I have left to lose? I take a moment to adjust the security settings on my implant and attach the worm. Ms. Waddington Long, it's fantastic to meet you in person. Please, have a seat. Milo Thirsk sits behind an expansive semicircular desk with his back to an array of floor-to-ceiling windows. The sea stretches into the distance until it's impossible to tell where sparkling water disappears into crystal skies. I sit opposite in a plush leather seat that reminds me of how tired I am. Behind me, a wall stretches out from the elevation tube, splitting the circular floor in half. 4 doors interrupt the polished marble, 2 on either side. Thirsk has gained weight since the infomercial, or he had it digitally removed when shooting, but the tailored suit and the easy smile are exactly as pictured. 2 more gorillas in suits stand behind him with faces of granite, and my earlier companion waits by the elevation tube. The metallic desk is sparsely decorated. A couple of spindly metal things twist in front of him, but most of the place is devoted to a large 3D renderer. It projects a faint outline of Astuna, which slowly rotates above the desk. Thirsk runs a hand over his shaved head. I love a challenge, Jane. Can I call you Jane? He doesn't wait for an answer, which is just as well because I don't have a constructive response. I love a challenge. So when your husband contacted my people last night and begged that I personally locate you and your memories, I couldn't resist. Of course, the $5 million he offered for their safe return didn't hurt either. $5 million? That's $5 million more than I had in college. Apparently, you sent him a message last night, told him they were taking your memories, but rather unhelpfully, you didn't happen to mention who they were. Not one of our 83 licensed memory casinos, I'll tell you that much. He winks at me. I'm suddenly desperate for a shower. Naturally, when I realized you weren't in our system, my men scoured every dodgy dealership on the island. I didn't hold out much hope, to be honest with you. Most off-the-books operators get the goods out of town, wait 1 year for the encryption to expire, then sell them to a memory mining corporation. Indeed, my men came up empty-handed until this morning. He slips a hand inside his jacket and produces a small black box. You'll never guess where we found them. Thirsk waits, expectantly. I cast around for inspiration. but failed to reel anything in. In Astuna? In Astu? Well, of course in fucking Astuna! He gives me a strange look. One of the hawkers down at the marina was selling them. A scruffy fellow with more beard than face. Claimed he won them in a game of cards. Nonsense, naturally. Thirsk slides the box towards me. Mind if I ask you how you really lost them? Yes. Fair enough. He releases the box and leans back in his chair. Rest assured, the encryption is rock solid, so I couldn't peek inside. Not that I'm one to pry. He gives me another wink. We sit in awkward silence for a moment. Well, go ahead and check the goods. I have another meeting in. Thirsk raises an eyebrow at the suit to his left. 8 minutes, sir. Exactly. I pick up the box and crack the lid. A single memory chip sits on a bed of velvet. Can all those years really fit into something so small? Could I glance at the doors behind me. Privacy! How thoughtless of me! He points to one of the doors. Use the bathroom and take as long as you need. The suit clears his throat. Yes, as long as it's less than 7 minutes. The bathroom is bigger than my college dorm. As with the main office, windows take the place of walls. Even when sitting on the toilet, you can see the entire city. That doesn't surprise me. Milo Thirsk seems like the kind of man who shits on the world. I step to the window and take a moment to absorb the view. One last vision of the world through innocent eyes. I remove the memory slip from its box and balance the shimmering square on my index finger. Did I want to do this? To kill myself? Whoever Jane Sr. is, whatever fucked up things she's seen and done, I can flush them all down the toilet. Literally. Start over with a few extra miles on the odometer and a scarred face. Maybe that's what she wanted in the first place, a fresh start. But then, why call my husband last night and ask for help? I close my eyes and press the memory slip against my Augment interface before I can change my mind. It hits me like a punch to the stomach. I crumple onto the marble floor, gasping for breath, crushed by the weight of another life. Professor Schenk, college, and the awkward mornings that follow. Gramps' frail hand grips my arm as rain falls on a coffin. Travel. Paris, Moscow, Seoul. A hollow projection in a dark room full of dark people. Hot pain in my jaw. Waiting. So much waiting. Crouching in the rain as a spider crawls along my neck. Sitting in a half-built skyscraper, nursing a drink in a crowded bar. Fragments gradually coalesce into stories. My freshman evaluation that turned into a recruitment meeting. Schenk's sales pitch, presented to college students with maximal aptitude and minimal family. My training, my kills. 18 years working for a branch of the government that doesn't exist. I raise my hand to my cheek and trace the scar, remembering the steel dragging along my cheekbone after that cock-up in Colombia. Evil sidekick, my ass. That bad-mouthing little shit wouldn't know style if it smacked her in the face. And then I remember Thirsk. Everything about Milo Thirsk. His favorite restaurant, sexual preferences, closest friends, that he sits down to take a piss. I remember the months spent studying a memory-based security system that couldn't be broken, no matter how many angles we hit it from. That is, until Schenk suggested this crazy plan after one too many beers and an unpalatable curry in South London. Schenk, starring as both the hawker at the marina and the voice of Mr. Waddington Long. Waddington fucking Long? Schenk is getting a black eye for that surprise. 2, in fact. One for me and one for Jane Jr. With one hand on the window, I stagger to my feet. My 7 minutes are running out, and nothing but a door separates me from Thirsk. A man with more memories than most small countries. 6 months ago, he acquired one too many. Specifically, one that's stored in a safe underneath his desk. I wrap an expensive-looking shaving mirror in one of the hand towels and smack it against the sink. 2 of the resulting shards are fit for the purpose. I twirl them through my fingers, slip one inside each sleeve. Only 3 men in the office aside from Thirsk. That's half the number Schenk expected. I crack my knuckles and roll my neck. Might even make it out of this alive. Pip Coen is supposedly a neuroscientist. They even gave him a PhD and everything. But real brains are frustratingly complicated, so he often writes about fictional ones instead. In his spare time, he can be found playing poker, hitting the snooze button, or adding a new pin to his travel map. He is a graduate of the Clarion Writers Workshop at UCSD, and his fiction has appeared or is upcoming in Apex and Compelling SF. In theory, he can be found at pipcoen.com. Narrated and produced by Mahvesh Murad. Music by bensounds.com. For more great stories like this one, visit apex-magazine.com. Out now from Apex Publications, Yours to Tell, Dialogues on the Art and Practice of Writing by Steve Raznick-Dem and Melanie Dem. Between them, they have published more than 600 short stories, 20 novels, and 10 short story collections, not to mention numerous articles, essays, poems, and plays. They've won the World Fantasy Award, British Fantasy Award, the Bram Stoker Award. In this book, they go over everything from the mechanics of writing, to how to find the time to write, to dealing with all the paper writers tend to collect. They discuss plot, point of view, setting, characterization, and more, all in an informal tone that invites you to become part of their conversation. Learn how to find your stories, because they are yours to tell. For more information, visit apexbookcompany.com.